God, George. It's all right. What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome, TTL fam. Glad to be back at you. The Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, the FMAM dial, KSHP. And we got a jam-packed show lineup up for you today, man. I've been wanting to talk to Roland Martin for a while. I haven't interviewed him in a long time. He's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Roland is a great guy, and he's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk the continuing fallout of Signalgate. We will be getting to that. And coming up here in hour number 2, we're going to have some fun because we got Rochelle Ryan joining us in the studio. Now, if you don't know who Rochelle Ryan is, she is a MAGA porn star. She is a staunch Trump supporter, and we are going to be having some fun with her coming up in hour number 2. So you're not going to want to miss that one. Nicole Mitchell's also going to be joining us in hour number 2, a former pastor turned OnlyFans model. Always interesting to talk to Nicole on Fridays. So we will be doing that as well. So we have a lot to get to today. We have a lot to talk about. And I want to introduce our first guest to you. Now, we have controversial guests on this show a lot. Some I agree with, some I disagree with. But the guy that I'm introducing now on the line, well, you could call him controversial because he is a former Ku Klux Klan member, and he's running for mayor in Biloxi, Mississippi. He contacted me through email, and I said, all right, we'll have you on the show. Let's talk about your candidacy. He's running as a Republican, and his name is Jordan Golub, who joins us right now on the program. Jordan, I do appreciate you being here, sir. How are you?
I enjoy listening to your program on YouTube, sir. I don't always agree with you, but I think you're pretty fair with your comments. You have a lot of ignorant people call in at times, sometimes not, but I enjoy listening to it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Jordan. Thank you. If somebody described you as a controversial figure, how would you respond to that?
Well, I'm not looking to make any new friends at this point in my life. I mean, in a few months, I'll turn 67. I've had a lot of controversy in my life with my parents, who are now both deceased, because they were Jewish and they weren't too accepting of the beliefs of the Ku Klux Klan. And, I've people, some people support what I say, some people don't. But
Fair enough.
If you want to get involved in politics, you got to, like Harry Truman said, if whatever it gets too hot, you got to get out of the kitchen. So,
but help me understand this. You're
yes,
born
sir.
you're born Jewish. You're a Jewish man. You come from Jewish parents. Why be?
Yes, sir.
Help me understand. Why be a member of the Ku Klux Klan for decades? A group that hates people like you. They hate people that are Jewish. It's a known hate group. You know that, against minorities and people of the Jewish faith. Why would you get involved with an organization that literally hates people like you that are born Jewish?
Well, I wouldn't say, when the pressure came and when I was kicked out of one of the larger Klan groups out of North Carolina because some Nazis were pressuring that particular Klan leader to get rid of me, I wouldn't say that all the Klan, even that leader, kind of later apologized to me for what he had to do, but for political reasons, he had to do what he had to do at the time. I have my reasons why I got involved with the Klan. I've been involved with the Klan since I was 18 years old. I mean, I'm not a current member of any Klan group. I'm not a so-called neo-Nazi. I think most of the so-called neo-Nazis out there today are frauds, although I think some of them have some good ideas. Most of the ones that are that the media calls Nazis are not, in my opinion, Nazis. People like, the very anti-Jewish and very wealthy and very crazy rap artist Kanye West. Now, I know there might be people on the radical right who like his anti-Israel views, and I might agree with some of those views.
Well, it's not really
There's a lot of left.
it's not really anti-Israel views. It's more of anti-Jewish. I mean, he sells swastikas. I mean, the guy is a Jew hater. Let's just call him for what he is. But
So is Candace Owens.
I agree. I agree with you
Yes,
100%. But I believe a lot of Klan members have very similar views that a Kanye West has, and that's why I asked you that question.
Certainly the left-wing Jews are not going to be wearing swastikas because they don't want to be associated with anything to do with National Socialist Germany. But the fact is that most of the protests on the campus, like Columbia and whatnot, as you well know, sir, are backed. The so-called pro-Palestinian protests have been heavily financed by, a lot of radical left-wing Jews, including, the Hungarian George Soros.
Well, I think there's a difference between being pro-Palestinian and just being anti-Jewish. Yeah, I think there's a fine line difference there.
What I resent about Mr. West or Mrs. Owens or whatever her name is, first of all, I don't agree with her interracial marriage. I think it's against the spirit of the Seventh Commandment.
All right, hold on. Let's talk about that. That was one of the issues that actually, Jordan, I wanted to talk to you. Why do you care if a black person dates or marries a white person? Why does it bother you to have two human beings that might be from different backgrounds and different skin color?
It's not it's a matter to me, sir. I mean, well, it's a long story, sir, but I believe a lot in the opinions of people like Sheldon Emery, the late Sheldon Emery, the late Bertrand Lewis Comparet.
No, I get that, but I'm asking you. I get what you're saying, but I'm asking you, Jordan, because you're the one who's running for mayor. Why does it bother you if you want to marry?
It's a violation of God. Like many of the founders of Christian identity, I believe it is a violation of the Seventh Commandment and the laws of God. And I mean, in Numbers 25 in the Old Testament, we have the story of the Phineas priesthood.
Okay, but my God that I believe in, wants you to be happy and wants you to be who you want to be with and be happy. And what you claim your God tells you might be very different than what my God tells me. And my point is, how does that affect you negatively? Forget about what you think God might be telling you. Why does it bother you to have a black man and a white woman that love each other, that care about each other, having a family and getting married or even dating? How does that affect you in a negative way? I guess that's my question.
Doesn't affect me personally. It does affect the state of the nation, and it affects Western Christian style civilization.
How does it affect it? How does it affect civilization in a negative way when you have a hardworking?
Well, you've heard of Matthew Arnold, the famous English poet who wrote Dover Beach. You're familiar with him?
Yeah,
right, I'm sure you had him.
Yeah, I am, but I'm still confused how that answers my question, because you said it doesn't negatively.
I'm going to read you a small quote that I just wrote this down.
But I don't want to.
Over a year ago.
But Jordan, I don't want to hear what somebody else. You're the one running for mayor, right? I understand.
Yeah, well, this expresses pretty much my belief much better, because he was, much better in the English language than I'll ever be.
I get that, but sir, with respect, you're the one who's running for mayor, right, Jordan?
Right. So let me read you his 2 sentences he wrote. If you know that, the mixture of persons of different race in the same commonwealth, unless one race had a complete ascendancy, tended to confuse all the relations of human life and all men's notions of right and wrong. That's from Matthew Arnold, born December 24, 1822, died 1888.
Okay, so you're reading a quote from somebody in the 1800s. We live in 2025. As you know, we had something called slavery. You can't own human beings anymore. That's why I'm asking you now. Okay, now, Jordan, in 2025. You claim that
I've always opposed. I've never been a fan of slavery.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad that we agree on that. But
I admire the Confederacy, but I don't believe the Confederacy's main goal was to preserve slavery, because over 94% of the Confederate soldiers, whether they were in the Army of Northern Virginia or the Army of Trans,
we agree on that. We agree on that. I'm just confused why you don't think different races should be together and marry, or I don't understand that at all.
I think it's against God's law, like I said.
But that's your opinion. So you can marry white people and only date white women, but why tell other people what to do?
I'm not telling you, up until Loving versus Virginia, the 1967 Supreme Court decision, miscegenation was against the law in most states.
Okay, but it's not against the law. But we can speak to that. But I'm talking about right now. It's not against the law for interracial couples. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I disagree with you. Why do you want to change and rename Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard downtown? Why you've called Dr. Martin Luther?
Several reasons. First of all, he was a plagiarist. He was a grifter. He plagiarized most of his doctoral thesis at Boston University in 1955. I'll tell you the main reason I'd like to get it. First of all, he's not from Mississippi.
Who cares?
Second, he supported Viet Cong victory. He supported Viet Cong victory in the war. I mean, you can research it, sir. You can Google the information.
Okay, let's just say, but let's just say hypothetically what you're saying is true. He still changed the course of history. And that was a time where black people couldn't use the same fountains as white people. They were in the back of buses. He changed the course of history, and his I Have a Dream speech is one of the more popular and most famous speeches of all time. You would have to agree with me that he did change the course of history for good for minorities in this country.
Sure, he changed the course of history.
Then why did you call him no good?
For good?
Then why were you?
Because integration is not the answer to bad race relations or whatever.
You don't think
it was an issue as far as during the days of segregation? I will say many of the in the blacks in the southern states, many of the black schools when they were segregated, there was certainly most of the white conservative politicians back then. The South was solid.
So you think we should be segregated, Jordan? You think that we should be?
That?
You think that we should be segregated right now?
I think that civilization in Mississippi, for example, was much better off when things were segregated. Now, I agree that there was not equal funding of black schools during the days of segregation. Before the Holmes v. Alexander decision, which was like the final last. I mean, we had Plessy v. Ferguson in 56, which overturned.
So you don't think that black people and white people should be hanging out with one another? They shouldn't be using the same.
I don't know about hanging out. I mean, in a state like Mississippi or the states of the Deep South, there's so many blacks. There's always been, even during the days of segregation, there has to be some communication between white and blacks. I'm not objecting to that. I'm objecting
so they can communicate. You're okay with that, but you don't think they should be going to dinner together and playing golf together and dating each other?
Generally not, sir. And I think it's been detrimental to Western civilization and going back to the foundation of our nation.
How is it
going back to the very foundation of our nation? Some of the biggest abolitionists who weren't even from the South, people like John Jay, the Federalist. He was a supporter of the American Colonization Society. Like so many of the people like James Madison, James Monroe, they were so many of our founding fathers, some of the people from the early republic were members of the American Colonization Society. They felt like Jefferson that blacks should be eventually emancipated, but they could not live together. And
so hold on. Hold on a second. Let's backtrack. If you win and you're the mayor in your county there in Mississippi, you don't want to work with black people. Is that a fair characterization?
No, I have to work. There's one councilman here in the city of Biloxi. I would have to work with him.
You would have to. I understand. But you just said you would have to. Is that something that you would want to do, or you don't want to work?
I don't know about as much as Marjorie Taylor Greene likes working with some of the.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a bigot and she's a terrible human being. I'm asking you specifically. I know you would have to work with somebody black.
Yeah, I don't know, as long as they treat me with respect, I'm not going to. In fact, I'm not going to engage in some of the stuff that the left-wing Democrats and the right-wing Republicans do.
But why not treat everybody? But why not treat everybody the way they treat you? Why does it bother you so?
I'm all for that, sir.
But you just said you're for
integration.
I
used to live in a poor section of Jackson, Mississippi. That's a city that's like 83% black now, and right now the mayor and the Hinds County District Attorney are both under indictment for bribery charges. Understand, innocent until proven guilty.
I understand that.
Mayor,
I get,
yes, sir. Going back to Jackson, it's now 83% black. It is not safe for white people in most of the areas of Jackson, Mississippi.
It's not safe because they're. Well, help me understand.
Hold on.
It's not safe because they're black. Do you think it would have been safe for black
No,
people?
not to do with because of the black. I'm saying it's not safe because of the integration and the blacks taking over the institutions. When there was segregation, you could walk down the streets of South Jackson.
Would you
and
characterize
not be?
Would you characterize white people taking over on January 6th? There weren't black people that were arrested that day. They were all white people, and they
I'm
came.
not a big fan of the so-called insurrection or even the theory that Trump absolutely had the election stolen. I'm not a big fan of that theory. I'm not a big Steve Bannon. I don't drink the Steve Bannon Kool-Aid.
Don't you?
I have my
Okay,
own
but
opinion,
wouldn't
sir.
you say that systemic racism does exist in this country, and that black people as a whole are not treated the same as white people when it comes to law enforcement, for example?
It depends, and often when they are victims, when black people are victims of poor, acts of violence by law enforcement that are not justified necessarily, it's often at the hands of their own. And what happened in Memphis, Tennessee, when the black guy who was supposedly going down the wrong side of the street
Right.
got, there was a.
Are you talking about Ahmaud
bunch of-
Arbery? Are you talking about Ahmaud Arbery?
Lamont, I don't know. I forget the.
Well, Ahmaud Arbery was a guy that was jogging down the street.
No, that's the guy in Georgia. No,
Okay.
I'm not talking about
Well,
Lamont.
okay, I
I'm talking
understand.
about the guy in Memphis
Okay.
who was going. There was a plane back then. Memphis had a plain closed unit, which they later abolished. It was supposed to, cut down in the worst sections of the city of Memphis, which Memphis has a lot of violent crime, just like Jackson does.
Right.
Anyway, so this guy supposedly was going down the wrong side of the street, and they stopped him. He pulled over. He's a UPS. He's a young employed black guy who works for UPS. He was not driving UPS. He was driving a civilian vehicle. He pulled over. He showed identification. About 5, armed. Before he was, I've seen the videos. It's been all over mass media. The guy begged for his life. He cooperated. He wasn't even giving him a hard time. He showed him his driver's license and whatnot. They literally beat the crap out of him. He died like 3 days later in the hospital.
That's absolutely terrible.
Black on black. That's not anything to do with
Okay,
white
so
people.
that's anecdotal evidence of one crime, black on black. Any race can do that. But my question to you is, do you think George Floyd, the same thing would have happened to him if he was white? Do you think Ahmaud Arbery, it would have gone down the same way if he was white?
I think, Chauvin had all kinds of complaints against him from whites and blacks.
Including against black people.
Floyd, I don't approve of what Chauvin did, although I think I'm not sure that's what killed him. I mean, there seems to be
the autopsies, both of them said it was a homicide. So I don't know how you could come to any other correlation there. Let me ask you a basic question, because I think this is very important,
sir.
Jordan. By the way, if you're just joining us, Jordan Golub, he's running as a Republican to be the next mayor of Biloxi. Jordan, if somebody said, geez, you sound like a racist, how would you answer that, Jordan? Would you consider yourself?
I don't accept, there's everybody supports, they support their ethnic group or whatever. That's their racial group, whatever. It's just a matter of human nature. I don't go with it. I read a book when I was in my teenage years. I corresponded with the man who wrote it. He passed away in 2000. When was it? He was born in 1915 and he died at age 90.
Okay, so hold on. You don't consider yourself a racist, then? Is that what you're saying? So you don't.
It's a pejorative term. I don't. I'm
judging
I would
other.
say that I believe in the efficacy of the white race and what it's contributed.
Okay, but I don't believe in
society.
believe in white supremacy. I don't believe in bigots that look like me.
I don't like that. That's a leftist term. I don't know. I believe in
Okay.
Western Christian style
leftist
civilization.
Okay, so how would
That's what I believe.
how would you consider somebody white going into a black church and killing a bunch of innocent black people? Would you call that a white supremacist?
You mean like the guy in Charleston?
I'm asking you just a basic question, Jacob. I forgot his.
Yeah, you mean somebody just walk? I don't care if he goes into the Walmart and where El Paso or
right. Isn't that a white supremacist?
No, I don't support that. Hell no.
I didn't. No. I understand. I'm not saying you support that.
Yes.
I'm just saying if I care. I don't think that's a leftist term. If you're somebody who is white who wants to kill minorities or black people, I would consider that.
Yeah. I mean that would be a hardcore racist, I suppose, if you want to.
So, but not a white supremacist. You wouldn't label it as a white supremacist.
Well, I guess you could call it.
Okay, so it's not a leftist term. So if you're a white person who's in the Ku Klux Klan who shows a Nazi symbols and hates black people and
Well, that's one reason that's one reason I'm not, I don't use that term anymore. I believe in what I believe about race and everything else, but I don't like the term, I don't like, Ku Klux Klan. All it is, it has the Jewish Hollywood, image of some white guys in sheets hanging a black guy somewhere who was falsely accused of raping a white woman, and I don't want to be associated with.
All right, I understand that you don't like the term white supremacy. Are you okay with the N-word?
Well, I mean, they say it. When I lived in South Jackson, the blacks call themselves N-words all the time.
Do you not understand that when a black person calls another black person the N-word, it's very different than if somebody
Yeah,
calls...
I understand.
Okay, so I'm asking you, do you use that word to reference black people?
Well, yeah, I'm like, when I'm mad, I think everybody does.
No, everybody, no, sir. No, sir. With respect.
I don't say
no. Hold on. There is not one white person in my orbit when they get mad call a black person the N-word. I
don't call a black person. I say, if a black person does me wrong, when I go home, I might say
the N-word.
Well, that damn nigger cheated me or something.
First of all, you can't say that word on the air. Sir, do you realize
sir.
Do you realize you're running for mayor of a city and you are telling me that when you're angry at somebody black, you call them the N-word when you go home?
I don't call them in person, nothing. I go home and I might say, the word I'm not supposed to use.
Do you
why did me wrong?
Why wouldn't you just say I'm angry at that person? Why would you call them the N-word? You're running for mayor and you're normalizing using the N-word, sir. Do you really?
Not. I just said I would never do it in public. I said when I get home, if a black person did me wrong in public,
why won't you
curse them and call them the N-word?
Got you. Well, then you're a coward. Why won't you say it in person? Then you'll say it behind.
Because I don't want to get beat up and
that's the definition of a coward, then, right? Isn't it? You'll go home and use a racist term, but you won't use that racist term to their face.
It's not a matter of using racist.
Yes, it is. The N-word.
If a black man did another black man wrong in public, he might go home to his house.
I'm not talking about. It's again. You're trying to conflate the two, sir. You're trying to make it like a black person calling a black person that is the same as you, who is a former member of.
I don't say it's the same.
Of course it's not.
If somebody does anybody wrong, regardless of race, religion, creed, ethnicity, they're going to go home and they're going to say
no, they're not. Well, I've never. You know why I don't do that? Because I'm not a racist. And if a black person treats me bad, I look at them the same as a white person. I say, hey, that's an a-hole. That's a jerk. He treated me bad. Why use the N-word, which is one of the most disgusting words in the dictionary, and you're normalizing it? You're saying you go home and you'll call them the N-word. Sir, you're trying to be the mayor of a city where black people live in your community. Do you think they would appreciate the fact that when you're angry at a black person, maybe even someone you would have to work with, that you would go home and call them the N-word? And you expect people to be okay with that? And you say, well, everybody does it. No, sir. The people that go home and call, with all due respect, the people that go home and call black people the N-word are racist and bigots and probably former members of the Ku Klux Klan. Do you understand that that's the group that you're in?
No, I'm not. I haven't been associated with the Klan in over 30 years.
But you were, and it doesn't sound like you've changed. You're normalizing going home and calling a black person the N-word as a Republican, and you're trying to become the mayor of a city, sir. Can't you admit that that's wrong? Can't you admit that that's disgusting?
I would never call anybody by an ethnic or racial term.
But you do it when you go home.
If you say it makes me a coward, maybe so.
Well, you're the kind of guy. You're the kind of guy that calls somebody an N-word under their breath so that they can't hear it. It makes you a racist and it makes you a coward. Why don't you admit that?
No, I wouldn't. It makes me a coward if I don't want to get killed, I guess. Okay. I don't want to get killed because I've been beat up for no reason.
Well,
My
guess
house
what?
was robbed in South Jackson constantly.
Okay.
I couldn't go 3 blocks away to the post office without the damn house being ransacked.
And they're only black people that commit crimes? Is that what you're saying? They were only black people?
No, I'm not saying that, but 12%. They're 12% of the national population. They commit over 51% of the violent crime.
So they're all N-word then? Is that so? When you go home, you just call them the N-word?
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
There are plenty of law-abiding citizens of every race. I don't use the N-word routinely.
So you don't like the word. So you don't like the word white supremacist, but you're totally okay at home calling black people the N-word. Is that fair, sir?
No, I don't. That's not. It's not the chief thing on my mind, sir. I got involved in the Klan for various reasons.
Well, they're a hate group.
largely
They're a hate group. They wear their white hoodies. They don't show their faces like the cowards that they are. They hate on Jewish
That's not
people.
true. Most of the marches I had were by ordinance. We were
Okay.
not, because of masking
Yeah.
ordinances, we were not allowed to wear masks
They
during
hate
the march.
they hate people based on religion and based on skin color. That's why they are a hate group, sir. And I wish you would admit that. And I wish you would, listen, I know you at your age, you're probably not going to change. And I don't expect in this conversation to change you at all. But you're also running
sir.
for public office. You're running for the mayor of Biloxi. And you're telling me openly, and you just admitted that when you go home and a black person does you wrong, you use the N-word to describe them. And I am amazed that you think that that's okay. I am amazed that you think that's all right. That would be like,
know.
that would be, well, that's the problem. You don't know, sir. It's disgusting. I can't believe.
I mean, there are all kinds of ethnic,
and it makes it wrong, and it's not right. I don't care about it. It'd be like,
who cares what person says in their own house? I mean, it makes it.
You're running
maybe
for.
an Italian.
I'll tell you why.
Italian wrong, and they call them a dago.
I'll tell you why.
What?
Because you're running for public office, and it's not against the
Right.
law for you to do that. But you're openly admitting that you hurl the N-word as a white man in anger because you don't like a black person. That is abundantly racist, and you are admitting that on this show, and you're running for mayor. You don't see a problem with that?
No, I don't, because I can guarantee you that there are many white people throughout the country who, when they have a bad experience with a black person, they probably make some ethnic slurs when they go.
Well, let me
back to
tell
their
you
house.
something, sir. Let me be clear. Maybe the friends that you hang out with, but the white people that I hang out with do not use that word. They don't judge people on race. They don't judge people on religion. They treat everybody as equals. If you're a jerk, you're a jerk, and it shouldn't matter what the color of your skin is.
Well, who's defining who's the jerk? I mean, yeah, I don't.
If
I support
somebody
the laws
treat-
of civil.
If somebody
Okay.
treats me bad, I don't care what the color of their skin is. I also don't care if there are ethnic groups that date one another, black and white people, for example. I don't care. I wouldn't characterize Dr. Martin Luther King like you have as no good. Sir, I think with all due respect.
I don't call it because he's black, because he supported the Viet Cong victory during the Vietnam War openly.
So you don't-
Openly called Ho Chi Minh the George Washington of Vietnam.
You support Donald Trump, and he's the one who pardoned a bunch of.
No, I voted for Donald Trump because I didn't like the alternative.
Is it because she's black?
The alternative was
Have you ever called? Have you ever called Kamala?
corrupt-
Have you ever called Kamala Harris the N-word?
Kamala Harris almost let some guy. I don't know. There was evidence presented that this guy was innocent, as the lawyers presented.
Have you ever called Kamala Harris the N-word in your home?
Well, I don't know. She's married to a Jewish businessman.
Didn't ask you who she was married to. Did you ever call her the N-word, sir? You're running for mayor of Biloxi. Have you ever called Kamala Harris the N-word?
Really thought a lot about Kamala Harris. I voted for Donald Trump because he was the lesser.
Have you ever called Kamala Harris the N-word? Yes or no?
I don't even think I've talked much about Kamala, other than their bad job as.
Can you say no?
Deputy Attorney General or Attorney
All
General.
right, so
of
you won't answer
California
that.
for sleeping with Willie Brown.
Okay, what is that? Okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? I'm asking you if you ever called her the N-word. That's all I've asked you.
I don't recall ever thinking much.
So
about
you don't.
I
Okay.
voted for Trump for one major reason. He said that if he, like all the Republicans running, even before he got down to Trump, and before DeSantis got out of the race and everything.
Okay, but hold on, sir,
And
Jordan. You just said you had a problem with Kamala Harris 30 years ago, allegedly having an affair with Willie Brown. What about Donald Trump sleeping with a porn star 2 weeks
I
after?
don't support that.
Well, wait a second. He's a liable. Hold on a second. He's a liable sexual abuser. He's cheated on every woman he's ever been with. But somehow you want to bring up Kamala Harris allegedly having a relationship with Willie Brown 30 years ago. That makes you a hypocrite, sir. And why won't you?
No, that's not the only thing I'm mad about. Like I say, there was.
You're mad about that. Okay. You're mad about the fact that she might have had a relationship with the guy. By the way, I find it interesting you haven't answered my question. I'll ask it again, yes or no. Have you ever called Kamala Harris the N-word, yes or no?
I may have. I don't know. I haven't. Yeah, I don't do a lot of thinking about it.
You're running for mayor.
Mr. Trump for one main reason.
Hold on a second.
Yes,
You're running for mayor of Biloxi as a Republican,
Yes,
and you just
Yes,
admitted that you might have called Kamala Harris the N-word. How can you
Yes, I
expect
might have.
how can you expect any reasonable, not racist person to vote for you when you just said you may have called Kamala Harris the N-word? Sir, that's despicable.
There's probably some black Republicans who've called Kamala.
Well, you know
Harris
what?
the N-word.
Then you know what? That's despicable as well. because it's one of the worst words in the dictionary. And you just admitted that you called Kamala Harris the N-word. And your excuse is, well, I think some black people might have called Kamala. Name me one black politician that's called Kamala the N-word. Name me one.
Politician. I just know there are, like, for example, Mississippi, which is one of the most
then they're
conservative
racist.
states in the country.
Then they're racist.
There are many black politicians who are Republican now.
Okay, then name me
I mean,
one.
not the majority
Then
of
make
them.
me
What's
one.
that?
Then name me one black politician on the record that is called Kamala the N-word or is admitted to doing so. Can you name me one?
Yeah, I'd say that crackpot from North Carolina probably has, the one who rightly lost the election
He did.
for governor
He has
of
never.
North Carolina.
Now I know what you're talking about, and he's a moron. But he's never, to my recollection, ever admitted to saying that or said that in public. Sir, you're running for mayor. You're running for mayor.
Okay, well, I'm not. I don't publicly make racial slurs, sir.
Right, but
Like
you
I
just
said,
did, you just but you just do it privately, so that makes it okay.
I don't know if it makes it okay. It's just natural. People are going to.
No, it's
side with
not
their own
natural.
race.
It's only natural for a Ku Klux Klan member or a bigot or a racist to use the N-word. It's not natural
You know,
for
these are for sure. You know,
It's not natural.
Go around think, whatever. I just.
You think it's
you know,
natural?
I
Wait, hold
believe
on.
what I believe for the way I was raised, because of the way I didn't like the way the Jews treated me when I read the New Testament.
All right, but that's different. You
Violence.
think, hold on, I want to get you right. You think it's natural, as the word you used, for white
Yes,
people to call people the N-word in the privacy of their own home. And because you might disagree with somebody on policy, which I would imagine you disagree with Harris on policy, you think it's natural for a white person that gets angry at a black person to utter the N-word? You think that's a natural thing? Well, let me tell you something, sir. It's not natural. And when that word rolls off your tongue, it's a word of hatred and bigotry towards every black person in this country. Do you not understand that?
Well, probably not, because I hear so many blacks calling it. Like
Again, there you go back.
I understand.
There you go back to your
But,
defense of comparing it to black people calling black people, which is a completely different context and characterization. Well, listen, I appreciate your honesty. I'll give you that.
Yes, sir.
You're
Yes, sir.
answering my questions. You're being honest about it, even though I find some of your answers extremely troubling and bigoted and racist in nature. But at the same time, I'll give you the opportunity here, sir. If black people are considering voting for you, even though you've openly called them in private the N-word, including the vice president of the former vice president, why should a black person vote for you? You said that you want to change Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, that you agree with some white supremacist views. You were a former member of the Klan. Why should a black person vote for you, I guess is my question.
Well, there may be black people who are not too thrilled that Martin Luther King supported Ho Chi Minh as the George Washington of Vietnam, didn't support communist domination of, including black Vietnam War veterans who probably would not be too thrilled with that comment.
All right. Well, I would say that they're probably a little bit more less thrilled with the Ku Klux Klan and white people that think they are the N-word if they get angry at them. But we'll leave that to them to decide.
There was, it's not just that there were reasons that the 1950s, or different reasons the 1866 Klan rose up in Pulaski, Tennessee, and they chose Nathan Bedford Forrest as the
Martin Luther King was assassinated because of what he believed in, and he wanted equality for all, including black and white people. With all due respect, it doesn't sound to me like you want that, and I think that might be part of the reason why you dislike Dr. Martin Luther King. But I do appreciate you coming on. I would hope that you could at least do me a favor and think about that word. And maybe you should take it out of your vocabulary, whether it's in private or public, sir. I would ask you.
I say one thing that has nothing to do with the city of Biloxi, but something that been controversial within the Trump administration that I'd like to make a small comment about.
What would be that? Donald Trump using the N-word in private? Go ahead, sir.
No, it's about the assistant press secretary for the Department of Defense. First of all, I want to say this about this changing, which was the only reason I voted Republican in the president. All the presidents, including Trump, went back when they had a full field of candidates. They were all pretty much committed to the idea that the military bases named after Confederate leaders should be returned. So I was wondering, one of the things, why when Pete Hegseth got in there and Lloyd Austin I'm so glad they got rid of him because he was a DEI, whatever. But the thing is, when they got in there, why didn't they name Fort Bragg after Braxton? Why did they name it Why'd they name it after Roland?
I can't
Bragg?
answer
And
that,
why
sir.
did they name?
I can't
What's
answer that. I can't answer that, sir.
Well,
But
let me
I'm
answer what I'm
shocked.
trying to say.
Well, hold on.
They
I'm
named-
shocked. I'm shocked that you're against DEI. Would you say Pete Hegseth is a DEI hire? What are his qualifications to be number 2 and to be the Secretary of Defense? Would you say he's a DEI hire? Would you say Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a DEI hire? How about the people that Donald Trump put in his administration that happen to be white that are unqualified? Why are they not DEI hires?
Yeah, well, I guess that's probably not the right term to use.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not.
There's a couple things I'd like to say about them before we
All right.
get
Well,
off.
listen, sir, we're running out of time here.
We're out of town.
Well,
okay,
but,
let me just say, it shouldn't be named after Roland Bragg, and it shouldn't be named after Fred Benning. It should be after Henry Louis Benning and Braxton Bragg. And the reason is, according to Stars and Stripes, because there is a law, and I think it ought to be overturned, that none of the American military bases are supposed to be named after Confederate.
All right, listen.
Heroes.
So it gets you very upset that some of these military bases are named, and you don't like the names of these military bases. That gets you upset. But it seems to be totally okay with you in private to call black people the N-word. Do you see where I'm going with that, sir? If you want credibility,
yeah, I guess I see where you're going. But what I wanted to say about the assistant press secretary for the Pentagon is she is, and this is something that I think that the left needs to come to grips with. It's not just a conspiracy theory.
The left needs to.
One of the reasons that
hold on. The left needs to come to grip with certain things. All right. Well, look. Here's what you are welcome to come back on, and we will continue this conversation when we have more time. We're running out of time because my next guest is up. Jordan, I do appreciate you being here. I think you have some very dangerous views and opinions, but we'll let the listeners decide on that one. Oh my. And to have my next guest join us right now, I'm going to ask him about this. And I'm a big fan of his. His name is Roland Martin, Roland Martin Unfiltered. He's an American journalist, commentator for TV One, the host of News One Now and Washington Watch. It's been years since I interviewed him. Roland, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you, sir. How are you?
Absolutely well. How's it going?
I'm a little frustrated, Roland, and I want to start by asking you this question. I just interviewed a man who's a former member of the Ku Klux Klan. His name is Jordan Golub. He's running as a Republican and mayor of Biloxi, and he just openly admitted on my show that in private he's called Kamala Harris the N-word. Roland, I don't even know what to say. What do you say to people like that as a black man living in America? I'm at a loss for words, Roland.
Not me. I say thank you. I say thank you because he's admitting to exactly who he is and where he stands. The problem we've always had has been Republicans who are overt and covert, where they say things in private, they do things in public, or they do things in private. What Donald Trump has done, though, is he has completely emboldened these people to, they could just take the hoods off. They could just be open. There's no longer a penalty to be racist. There's no longer a penalty to attend white supremacist conferences like Andy Ogles and other Republicans. There's no longer a penalty. Donald Trump issued an executive order last night that literally says to restore the original names of monuments, plaques, and other items. They want to restore the names of Confederates to army bases and military bases. They want to return these things. So they have this is absolutely, hey, let's go back to Jim Crow, because that is what they really mean by make America great again.
Agree with you. Roland, what would you say to somebody like a Byron Donalds or a Tim Scott? Like, what would you say to somebody like that who is, for lack of a better term, kissing the ass of Donald Trump for years now? What would you say to those black politicians that are in office that seem to agree with everything Donald Trump says and does?
Well, one of the things that you see, so here's the issue when you start talking about, because in fact, Wesley Hunt posted a tweet either this morning or yesterday saying, how can folks call the Republican Party racist? I got reelected in my largely white district by 30 points. Well, that's cute, Wesley. So if you get engaged in the racist, not racist conversations, then that's what the debate is. No, I'm going to hit them on policy. So I'm going to say, okay, Senator Tim Scott, okay, Byron Donalds, okay, Wesley Hunt, okay, Burgess Owens. Can y'all explain to me exactly why the Trump the Trump HUD division is pulling out of the racial discrimination cases in Texas. Can y'all explain to me why the Trump DOJ is pulling out of the voter discrimination lawsuit in Texas? Can y'all explain to me what? See, I'm gonna hit you on policy because
Right.
I want to force.
Right.
I want to force them to defend that. See, it's real easy. See, that's why I never get engaged in a racist, not racist conversation because that becomes subjective and it gets emotional. And we discuss all. See, we discuss racist, not racist, whereas I want to talk about all the things in between racist,
Sure.
not racist.
Makes sense.
I want to
Makes
discuss actions. And
Yep.
see, that's what they never want to do. I want
Yeah.
to sit here and say, okay, can y'all defend why the new black HUD secretary said, oh no, we're going to remove cities. You no longer have to submit plans that show that your housing plans are not discriminatory.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this, Byron Donalds and Tim Scott and Burgess Owens and Wesley Hunt. Do you agree with continuing the assessment of racial discriminatory practices when it comes to the assessments of homes, when it comes to evaluation? See, I'm going to force them to say, oh, yeah, I agree with Trump on that. So you agree with discriminatory practices against black people, the same people you look like.
Very,
See,
very.
now,
Yeah.
see, now it's policy. Now
Right.
it's policy focused.
Right. You put them in a corner. I love that. So, Roland, speaking of policy or statements that Trump has made, apparently you're a domestic terrorist if you light a Tesla car on fire. Now, obviously, we both don't agree with that behavior. It's arson.
Absolutely.
But, Roland, if you beat a police officer on January 6th and you happen to be a white supremacist who committed those horrible crimes, somehow that makes you a patriot, right? If you're MAGA.
Now hold on. Not only a patriot, not only can you get a pardon, Trump is now saying, I'm going to compensate you
Right.
for the pain and suffering that you went through because you chose to be a criminal. See,
Mhm.
that's what we're dealing with. What we are dealing with is a narcissist thug. Let me be real clear. I do not call him president. I would not afford him that respect. On my show, I call him the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon con man in chief, Donald Trump, because that's who he is. Donald Trump only believes in supporting people who support him. So if you are a cop beating domestic terrorist, oh, you're wonderful. Did you see the? I posted on Twitter. What's the guy's name? That one of those rappers who showed up at a Trump rally and stood with Trump just took a plea deal for murder.
I did see
For
that.
murder.
Yep.
See, so Donald Trump doesn't care if you kill somebody as long as you endorse him. Yo, you my guy.
I completely agree. If you're just joining us, Roland Martin from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I love his show, love what he does. All right, let's talk a little bit about Signalgate, if I may. What do you make of the fact that, as we all know, this is obviously very sensitive material that was out there on this Signal chat, and they're just lying and doubling down, from Caroline Leavitt to Pete Hegseth to Donald Trump, who doesn't know anything about it. And we heard our own CIA director saying it, quote, wasn't a mistake. Roland, what do you make of this?
Very simple. And that is this here. To every Democrat, to every progressive, to every liberal, get your head out of your ass and realize that these people they have no honor, no decency, no morals, no ethics, no values or principles or integrity. What they care about is power. And so the problem is the Democrats, they believe in institutions. They believe in the rule of law. They believe in the right thing. So if Al Franken takes a picture with his hands not on a woman's breast, but he's making a joke, he's got to resign. On the Republicans, you get to be appointed as chair of a committee. And so that's what you're dealing with. So the problem is Democrats are playing a game by a set of rules that they do not follow. When you have Donald Trump, who turns the White House into an auto mall as a commercial for Tesla, when you have the Commerce Secretary who goes on television saying, buy Tesla stock, when you have the Attorney General saying to a member of Congress, you better watch your mouth when you criticize Tesla. They are defending a donor. Do you remember when Republicans were angry and upset that President Bill Clinton, allowed donors to spend the night in the Lincoln bedroom? Oh, they've taken this thing to a whole new level. So Democrats should be learning from this by saying, oh, okay, we see how y'all rolling. It should be straight up hardcore, balls to the walls, hitting them every single day because there's no niceness. See, guess what? Bob Mitchell, those Republicans don't exist. Bob Dole, those Republicans don't exist. And so the lesson for Democrats should be game on.
Roland, I've echoed what you just said every day on this show, and I'm very frustrated with Chuck Schumer. I'm frustrated with some of these Democrats that I think have no backbone, some of whom even voted for this GOP spending bill. I like
and voted for his nominees.
Right, exactly.
Pam Bondi literally spends more time on Fox News than she does at the Department of Justice. So if you are a Democrat and you voted for her, shame on you. If you are a Democrat who voted for Doug Collins for the VA, shame on you. If you voted for Russell Vought, shame on you. See, again, they're playing nice. I'm not interested in playing nice.
Yeah, neither am I. I think you have to fight fire with fire, right, Roland? And with Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. That might have worked.
Hell no.
Doesn't work now.
It actually didn't work back then. Let me tell you something. When they go low, I'm going lower. If they hit me in the knees, I'm gonna hit them in the shin. If they hit me in the ankles, I'm gonna bust them at the bottom of their feet. No, this is not. People need to understand. We gotta stop playing cute and nice. Okay, all these people, I get it. I get Gaza. I get the suffering, the pain, and the death. But here's what we know: Donald Trump don't care about any Palestinians. They snatched a woman off of the streets of America who wrote an op-ed, and Marco Rubio, I'm sorry, is his family from here? He literally said, if you say a negative word about the United States, we will take your visa. So this is no time for institutionalists. No, so all this, although y'all should not have been interrupting Trump's speech, we should have sat there in silence to express our disdain. No, they should have had a Democrat stand up every 2 minutes, cussing him out. It should have been every 2 minutes. There are 200. First of all, let's see, 48 United States senators. You had 200 and 215 Democrats, some who didn't attend. I would have been hitting his ass with a wave of protest. Every 2 minutes, escort one out, I'm sending another one. Escort that one out, I'm sending another one. Because the Republicans said nothing when Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene stood up and yelled at President Biden. Now, damn the old school. This is new school.
I said basically what you just said on the Piers Morgan show a few weeks ago. I could not agree with you more. I'm curious. I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this question, Roland. If you had the opportunity behind closed doors with no cameras to speak to Donald Trump, what would you say to him?
No, I have.
What have you said to him?
I have. In the first time that narcissist was there, I got invited to 3. So the meetings that they do with television anchors, I got invited to 3 meetings. I attended 2, at a speech for a 3rd. So first of all, we go in and look, they didn't care about nothing. I did multiple ones under Obama. I did one with Biden. And normally when you go in, you actually have to put your phones or any recording devices in a cubby hole before you go into the meeting. They didn't care. So I actually recorded one of the meetings. I recorded the whole thing. Okay. So we're sitting there, we go in, and the first one, when the president walks in, president institution walks in, everyone stands up and they all move towards him. Well, I was like that Simpson meme. I backed up into the bushes. And so I was sitting there going, man, I'm just going to wait. He got to come this way anyway. So I was like, man, I can't call this man president. I can't call this man mister. So when he got to me and stuck his hand out and says, good to see you, I went, hi. That's all I said. So then it's time for questions. And so it's probably about 30 plus people around this massive table, not the East Room, the one room on the other side of the East Room. I keep forgetting what that is. So we're in there and He's in the center of the table. I'm actually on far to his left. And again, it's Chuck Todd, it's Jake Tapper,
Right.
it's David Muir, it's those, all these folks. So they spend the first hour going back and forth immigration. He's insulting people. He tells what's his name from NBC News, Lester Hope. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that interview you did with me horrible. It doesn't. He says to his face, it doesn't matter. You don't have any power. I'll just talk to your bosses. Just totally dismissed him. So then he mentioned Chicago. I was like, I'm glad you brought it up. Again, I couldn't say Mr. President. So I said, let's talk about Chicago. I said, so what exactly is your plan to deal with crime in Chicago? So he starts going to this tangent. So this is what he says. Tough. I said, I'm sorry. What did you say? Tough. I said, tough is a word. That is not a plan. Well, it's about being tough. I sat there and I was like, I looked to my left, to my right, and I'm like, y'all hear this? Man, I put my pen in my pad, closed it up. I said, I'm done, and threw my hands up. He is not bright. He sat there and told this story. Oh, yeah. When I was there, I met this motorcycle cop. You could tell he's a tough, no nonsense guy. He came up to me and said, Mr. Trump, we could have this problem in crime in Chicago figured out in a week. And we can do it in 5 days with 2 days to spare. We know what he was saying. Go knock some heads. Go sit here and beat some folk up. Trump goes, yeah, that's right. Y'all remember that guy? I got his name and I recommended to Rahm that he be interviewed for the Chicago police commissioner. And so he was like how great this guy was. Now I knew he was really probably describing a John Burge type of guy who beat the confessions out of black men that cost the city of Chicago $40 million reparations. So I said, okay, give me his name. I'll put him on the show. He started looking. I said, no. Give me his name. I'll put him on the show. And then when I jammed up on housing, he claimed, "Oh, we'll do something with you and Ben Carson." That never happened. He's not bright. He's not smart. Everything is off the cuff. And the whole time, he's all about insulting the other journalists. So he's insulting Chuck Todd. He's insulting CNN, insulting NBC, and they thought it was great. And I'm like, man, y'all crazy.
Yeah, that's not surprising. He has no replacement plan for Obamacare. He has no real policy other than
Nope.
Throwing out people in this country. So many are nonviolent criminals that are undocumented. I agree.
The difference now is that the Heritage Foundation, with Predator 2025, gave him a blueprint, and their whole deal was, we'll help you get back in power to keep you out of jail, and you have to execute our plan. He lied during the election. I don't know anything about that. I got my own plan. I don't even want to see it. He was lying the whole time. The media fell for the lie, and he is executing their thing to the T. In fact, you mentioned Signalgate. They even put in Predator 2025 they put in there to use Signal, so there will be no record of their actions.
Yeah, not surprising. Well, I wanted to ask you, Roland, what is your, I'm sure you have plenty of concerns as I do, but the next 3.5+ years, what is your biggest worry or concern about what is going to happen to this country? I'm sure it's not just one thing, but what are your biggest concerns of what is going to happen here in the next 3.5 years?
The biggest concern that I have is complacency. What I am seeing and hearing, I'm seeing people who do not vote for him. I'm seeing them being despondent. I'm seeing them being upset. Oh my God, I'm just tired. I've got millennials and Gen Z African Americans saying the same thing, and I was like, thank God our ancestors didn't say the same thing. And I get it. I get people thought, oh my goodness, this man is awful. How could he win? But what it also shows you is what happens when people give up. The New York Times did a story where they followed 11 or 12 black voters, and some of them who voted for Trump, others who didn't. And there was a woman from Milwaukee, a teacher's aide, and she literally said she did not vote because she thought Trump would win. And I'm like, well, he's guaranteed to win if you never vote.
Right.
And so that's part of the deal. It's complacency. Understand, Republicans are all about restricting right to vote,
Mhm.
shrinking the electorate makes it easier for them to win. And
Yeah.
that's what happened. And so too many Democrats looking for the perfect candidate, the perfect scenario, or I disagree with you on one issue, so therefore I'm not going to vote. They stayed at home. If you study the data, Vice President Kamala Harris got about the same or slightly more of the white vote than Joe Biden. What happened? Latinos, African Americans, and young folks, that was a decrease. And so there were a multitude of reasons why. Now people are seeing the results of what happened when you stay home. So I need people to understand in Nevada, in New Mexico, in Colorado, in these places, there is, when they say elections have consequences, this is a consequence of this election. You're about to see, forget the Kennedy Center, he's about to attack the Smithsonian. If you
Right.
believe the National Museum of African American History and Culture, they are cited in that executive order he gave last night.
Mhm.
They have now settled for the second time with a major law firm. They are going after law firms. They're going after museums, schools. They're going after every single system. They want to completely disrupt, degrade, destroy it, and build it in their likeness and image. And so I think people need to stop thinking 3.5 years. First of all, you can't do anything about Trump until 2028. He can't
Right.
run again. That's that. The
Yep.
midterm election, though, is 2026. You can't worry about that today. What should you be focused on? Everybody listening, if you know somebody in Louisiana right now, call them, email them, and text them to say, you better vote tomorrow against the 4 constitutional amendments being pushed by MAGA Governor by Jeff Landry. If you
Yeah.
know some people in Wisconsin, call, email, and text them to say you better be voting for Sarah Crawford for the Wisconsin Supreme Court on April 1st. If you know somebody in St. Louis, you should be saying on April 8th, you should be voting for Tashara Jones. Then
Good
you have
point.
primaries coming up. You got gubernatorial races coming up. You got Virginia, all House races are on the line, plus Senate. And so you want to make sure that Don Scott remains the Speaker of the House and Louise Lucas controls the money in the Senate, and you defeat the crazy MAGA black woman running for governor. I'm focused on what's right in front of me.
Right.
Right now, on this date in 2025, I cannot think about 2028. I can't think about 2026. And if elections are not taking place where you live, you should be focused on what I call education, enlightenment, and inform. You should be talking to people, your friends, your family, your neighbors, and teaching them and educating them and bringing them up to date on what's going on. So now when 2026 rolls around, now they are primed. Now you've spent March to January educating, enlightening, and informing. So now when it's election season, they're ready for the primary. Now you're pushing them to register and vote. Primary is over. And guess what? There are some Democrats who need to be challenged.
Yes.
Republicans, right now, there are 2 special elections happening in Florida on Tuesday. The Democratic candidate in one of those districts is down 4 points. Donald Trump is freaking out. That's why they pulled Elise Stefanik's name to be the UN ambassador, because they are scared that if she got that job, they would lose her seat in New York. So understand, it's called mobilize, organize. Stop whining, complaining, bitching, and moaning. Vice President Kamala Harris lost. The election is over. Now you must focus on how do you beat them in every special election, every state election, and then hit them and take the House and or the Senate next year, 2026.
Very well said, Roland. I agree with that sentiment as well. Before I let you go, and I absolutely love what you do, and that's why you're so popular. Can you give out the information about Roland Martin Unfiltered? How can people follow you and watch your show? Because you're so good at what you do.
Folks, please go to my YouTube channel, and it's real simple, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. We're live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every single day. We restream the show. I also have Black Star Network. Download that app. And you can, of course, you can see them. I got about 5 other shows on the network. We're adding new shows as we speak. And then support us as well. Look, I don't have millionaires and billionaires cutting checks. Matter of fact, it's so funny. I'm literally sitting here signing the back of checks of my donors. I don't charge a subscription fee because I want the content widely available. I don't have a Patreon. So also support. So you go to blackstarnetwork.com. you'll see how you can support check, money order, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, because we have to fund it. We started 6.5 years ago with 157,000 YouTube subscribers. Today we have 1.77 million because it's been totally organic, and it's all about just speaking to the interests of people. And look, yes, I center African Americans, but I've got folks who are white, Latino, Asian American who listen. I had a guy who sent me a check. He said, I'm a 70-year-old white gay man, and I love your content. This is not the time for us to check out. This is time for us to check in, for us to stay engaged, to be informed. So please support the work that we do because, trust me, the right is dumping millions and millions of dollars into a digital ecosystem. We have to fight fire with fire. And I don't worry about how many people Joe Rogan has. I worry about who I can touch every single day.
Absolutely. Roland, that's why you're one of the best in the business, my friend. I love what you do. Been a fan of your work for so long. Love to have you on again. Love to have you on the road again down the road. Roland, you're the best, my friend. And please support his work. Roland, take care. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Appreciate it. Be well. Take care.
Thank you, sir. That's the legend himself. Yes, he is a legend. He's so good at what he does. Roland Martin, so eloquent, makes so many wonderful points. I mean, he echoes so many things, too, that I've said on this show before, and he does it in such a great way. And he's right. Roland Martin, ladies and gentlemen. We will have him on the show again. So I want to thank my sponsor, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, home of the $20 steak. I'm telling you, they haven't raised the price in 8 years. It's one of the best steaks you'll have in town. Comes with a side and veggies, and I go there at least 2 to 3 times a week, and the food there is so great. Check it out, Jackson's Bar and Grill. Tell them that I sent you. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, MAGA porn star Rochelle Ryan. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Organized crime and law enforcement, we put in the work to get to the bottom of some of history's most intriguing tales, exploring the age-old dichotomy of the good guys versus the bad guys. Located in the heart of downtown Las Vegas, the Mob Museum is an immersive experience, exploring the ongoing power struggles between organized crime and law enforcement from the mob's origination to today. Located at 300 Stewart and 4th Street, themobmuseum.org. Let's have a sit-down.
Complete Family Care in Henderson is open. No waiting, just walk in, see the doctor right away, have your blood and x-rays done on site, and so call them today at 702-747-7770. Fall allergy season is here. Get a 3-month allergy shot for $120. 3 months of allergy relief for just $120. Complete Family Care accepts all major insurances and Medicare. So visit us today at cfchenderson.com. That's cfchenderson.com. Or call them at 702-747-7770. That's 747-7770.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Wow, what an interesting show we've had so far. We had a guy who's a Republican running for mayor of Mississippi who's just openly admitted on my show that he's called Kamala Harris the N-word. Can't wait to post that. I'm sure that'll help his candidacy. We just had the great Roland Martin joining us. That guy is awesome. I love having him on. And, I want to thank my sponsors this segment. I've been talking a lot about how X was breached and Bank of America had this big breach. Aura is the sponsor of this segment, and the smart and simple way to stay safe online, protect your family from fraud. Digital safety is so important, of course. They do all the hard work for you. And here's the best thing about being a PTL listener. They're going to give you a 14-day free trial, risk-free. You can't beat it, right, everybody? So Aura will give you this 14-day free trial. You see the link on the bottom of your screen, aura.com/PTL, and you'll be surprised what they can find. Check them out, Aura, the sponsors of this segment. All right, so I've been talking about a lot about this lovely lady the last week or so that she was going to be in studio. Her name is Rochelle Ryan, and she became, she's been a household name for a long time in the adult entertainment industry, but she was actually featured on Fox News for this specific reason. Have a listen to this.
The wildfires, a porn star is offering free services to LA firefighters. Patriotic men over there. They're already saluting. In a related story, guess who was just caught impersonating an LA firefighter? All right. Those were
very funny. That lady, Rochelle Ryan, is joining us in studio right now. Rochelle, it is great to see you. Thank you for being here. How are you?
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, it's been like, 3 or 4 years?
No,
right?
It was before COVID.
Oh, so probably 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. I think like 2019.
Wow. So it's been a really long time.
Yeah. And then I also think we should talk about how this happened because I
Yes.
stalked you at the AVN
Yes, you
Awards
did.
a couple
Yes.
months ago.
I'm at the AVN Awards, and I'm with Nicole Mitchell, who, by the way, is going to be joining us in about 30 minutes. And she is a former pastor, now a OnlyFans model. So we'll be able to talk to her. And you recognized me from doing the show several years back. And you're like, I got to get back on your show. And then you showed me that clip of you being featured on Fox News. And I thought it was hilarious, by the way. And I said, absolutely, I want you to come back and see
But it was crazy. I was thinking about you for something else before that. Maybe I was going through like
female porn stars thinking about me. That makes me feel really good inside, by the way. Yeah.
I was. And yeah. And then it was like magically you were there right in front of my booth. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fate.
What goes through your mind when you see them talking about you on Fox News like that?
So it was actually pretty funny. I was doing some work Friday night on my computer, and then I just popped on Instagram, and a couple of my fans, they were like, "You're on Gutfeld right now." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "No, I'm not." And it was at 7:00. So the day was still fairly early for me. And so I immediately turned on Gutfeld, and it was past the clip because it was part of like the opening segment. And and then a couple of people sent it to me, and I was just, oh my gosh. And I'm a fan of his show. I love it, but I usually watch it later in the night.
Yes. Well, that was actually very funny. And you got a lot of PR from that statement. I was going to wear a firefighter outfit today, but I decided not to. Last second, we might be having a special guest joining us here in just a few minutes, so we'll get to that.
Okay.
But you consider yourself a MAGA porn star. Is that a fair characterization?
I would say I am a conservative porn star. A lot of people, I think the MAGA movement just got so big that a lot of people just kind of ran with it. And I do wear my MAGA hat, but yeah.
Okay, so I have some friends in this industry. Evan Stone has done this show a bunch of times.
Oh yeah. He was running like during the election.
He did. I interviewed him. He did run for office as not a Republican. He was what did he call himself? Sort of an independent, I think.
Yeah.
But I ask porn stars this question a lot because I think it's fair to characterize most porn stars, leaning to the left, right? Is that fair, you think, or no?
No, actually,
you don't think so?
No, you would be very surprised, Brian. Yes, absolutely. Definitely. I would say the industry is 70-30. And if you
Really?
100%.
Wow.
Just a lot of people choose not to be as vocal as myself and some of the other men and women that are. But a lot of the company owners, they're all conservative.
So help me out with it. I feel like the Mike Johnsons of the world and some on the right are anti-porn, even though they're probably fans of yours and they're fans of a lot of people, but they claim that porn is bad. At least a lot of conservative alt-right Republicans want to abolish porn. You've got the House Speaker who has his accountability partner with his son, which I think is very strange. I feel like more liberal-leaning people want you to be who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're a stripper or a porn star, as long as it's legal, and clearly what you're doing is legal, that they're more open to it than maybe some religious alt-right conservatives. Does that make sense?
I think there's extremists on both sides, on the left and the right, and nobody's really going to come out and be like, yay, pornography, like rock on. I don't think anybody is going to do that. And I do think that you look excited over there. I do.
Do I?
Yeah. I do think that Trump is a big First and Second Amendment guy. And that's the number one crutch that the adult film industry has to lean on is the First Amendment. It protects our freedom of expression, which falls in line with what I do for a living.
You know Stormy Daniels pretty well. Is that fair to say?
No, not pretty well. I worked on a project with her when she was directing this movie, and then I've seen her at conventions and stuff, but I wouldn't say I know her pretty well or anything like that. And I worked on that movie with her years ago.
Did you believe her when she described what took place in the $130,000 payment and all that stuff? Did you believe that whole scenario?
I believe that she met and had private time with Donald, but everything else, I just feel like that can just get blown out and exaggerated and all the things.
What do you make of that? I mean, obviously, I would assume you voted for Donald Trump. Right?
Yes.
That's fair. What do you make of the fact that he has, all these kids with three different women, and he allegedly cheated on Melania with Stormy Daniels 2 weeks after Barron was born? And what do you make of that whole aura? Now, I know this question has nothing to do with policy. It has more to do with just the person, right? Character. But what do you make of that behavior? You've been in this business a long time. You know that
Right.
some men could be obviously pigs and unfaithful to their wives. We know, I'm not just saying Donald Trump is the only one, but,
Right.
but he happens to be the president and the guy that you voted for. What do you make of that?
I feel that so many men cheat on their wives and do dirty things. And even if, let's say, Biden didn't, there's so much corruption that the left has done where I'm like, I would rather have a man that's, wants to spend quality time with porn stars than someone that's as corrupt as the Bidens or the Clintons or
Tell me
Obama.
Let's talk about that. I want to
Oh
get your thoughts
gosh,
on
here
that.
we go. I don't know how deep I want to dive into
No.
this.
Well, we don't have to go too deep into it, but I want to get your thoughts on the Bidens. Like you had mentioned that they are corrupt, and obviously, in my
He
personal
pardoned his whole family
right. Why do you think he did that?
because he could.
Right, but why do you think he did? There had to be a reason for it. Do you think it's because they're criminals, or do you think maybe because Kash Patel and Donald Trump have been talking about going after the family for years?
Probably both. I love Kash Patel. Have you met him?
Do you like? I have. He lives in Vegas.
I
Yes, have.
know. Yeah.
He wanted to charge me $3,000 to do a 15-minute interview, so I told him to go F himself.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've had Vivek Ramaswamy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Caroline Levette's done this show a few months ago. Nobody's ever charged me $1 in 20 years of radio. And Kash Patel said he wanted to charge me for 15 minutes. And I said, what do you think I am? Stormy Daniels? I mean, what the hell? I don't know.
Yeah.
That I didn't like.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the Biden, as you said, crime family. And when I hear that, I say to myself, okay, no politician is perfect.
Yeah.
Clearly, Hunter Biden took advantage of who his father was when it came to the Burisma job. I don't deny that. But then I look at Jared Kushner receiving $2.1 billion from the Saudis. I see Ivanka Trump making $600 million in Chinese trademarks when they actually worked in Donald Trump's administration. And I say to myself, well, what if Hunter Biden worked in Joe Biden's administration and got a $2 billion check from the Saudis? I mean, they're going nuts because he's selling paintings.
Yeah, there's so much other stuff. Actually, I have a very good Hunter Biden story.
Okay, let's hear
Didn't
it.
necessarily happen to me, but
Okay.
he was in a club that I have featured Dan Stat in Washington, D.C., and it was known to have a lot of politicians come in. And he was in one of the VIP rooms, and somebody walked by and they were like, "Ooh, we smell something." And he was in there with a crack pipe. And I begged my friend, I said, "Please call TMZ and share this story." And
Well,
they
he had a
would
drug
not.
problem. We know that, right?
I know, but I was like, "Please
But
call
that doesn't.
TMZ."
But that doesn't surprise me because he's been open about that, right? And he's had some major drug issues, and
Yeah.
sadly in this
A
country,
baby with a stripper girlfriend that he didn't want to claim.
I don't know all the specifics in that, but we do know that he's cleaned up, and now I respect the fact that
Do
he
we
helped.
believe that though?
I do, because he helps other people now with his organization that are suffering from drug addiction. So I mean, listen, I think he's a guy that suffered from substance abuse. I guess the thing that my issue with that is, Donald Trump, and you tell me, I'm sure you'll probably disagree with me, but Donald Trump is the guy who bragged about sexual assault. He's the guy who has attacked women on looks. He's the guy who has been not faithful to one woman ever in his life. And I would consider the way Donald Trump has treated women far worse than anything Hunter Biden has ever done. Did he get hookers in his life? Sure. Absolutely. Did he have a drug problem? Sure. Absolutely. What I know now is that he seems to be a pretty good husband and father now, and he's cleaned himself up. But I mean, Donald Trump's never owned up to anything. He's never owned up to anything. And Melania isn't even there. I see it as a contractual marriage. She's not even in the White House. She's not sleeping in the same bed as him.
I would want to be at Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Well, she's all over the place. I don't know if she's at Mar-a-Lago, but she's all, I don't know.
I'd rather be in Florida. Good for her.
Well, but tell me this, okay? When I see Joe Biden and his wife, Dr. Biden, and I see them holding hands and I see them together all the time, I see a couple that loves one another.
Well, because she has to take care of him.
Well,
He couldn't even walk down the stairs at the debate.
But even if that is true, right, that she's, quote, taking care of him, can you picture Melania Trump doing that for Donnie? She slaps his hand away. She doesn't want to be anywhere near him.
No, I don't think so. I think, I don't believe that at all. And I don't think she's always slapped his hand away. Of course, there's, the media is going to paint him this horrible, negative person. They're going to show certain things. Like, do we really know what's going on? No.
We don't know what's really going on. I agree with you. But what we do know is that she's not in the White House. She's not traveling with him. She didn't go to his court proceedings.
It's probably stressful. Like, to be honest,
I don't doubt that.
I could be married to Donald Trump and I probably wouldn't either. I'm a loyal woman.
I don't doubt that it's very stressful. And
Yeah.
you're in the public eye. I agree with you there. But why wouldn't she be there for her husband during, say, any of the trials, the felony?
You could be there for your man and support your husband,
Mhm.
and you don't have to physically be there. It's a lot of attention. And she probably was scared. That man had so many death threats. I wouldn't want to be around it either. I'd be terrified. I'd be terrified even just staying at Mar-a-Lago if she's even there.
What was it like about Joe Biden's presidency that you disliked? What was it about Joe Biden where you said, "Oh, I don't like this man. I can't support him"? What were some of your criticisms of him, or maybe even the Democrat Party in general?
Oh my gosh, do we even have enough time on this?
Well, we can go one by one, but like, give me like your biggest criticism of like the Joe Biden administration. Maybe we can.
My values just have never aligned with the left at all on anything.
Like, give me an example. Like when you say values, like, okay, let's start with this. I'll bring up a couple topics, get your thoughts on giving a woman the right to choose. In half the states in this country, it's illegal for a woman to get an abortion. In some of those states, even if you're the victim of incest or rape, which I think is unbelievably extreme, to force, God forbid, a 13-year-old girl to have what I would consider a rape baby. Now, Democrats, for the most part, are pro-choice, give a woman the right to choose. They're for maternity leave and government programs to help that woman raise that child. And I know the reason why Roe versus Wade was overturned was because Donald Trump put conservative judges that stacked the court that ruled to leave it to the states. What are your thoughts on abortion in general? And do you think that a woman should be forced to have a baby, even the victim of rape or incest?
Oh, absolutely not. No, and I don't agree with that. And that's where it is where I will say there are extremists on both sides, on the left and the right. And nobody's ever going to come out saying, "Oh, I'm 100% for porn and for,
Right.
and all this." But yeah, I extremely believe in a woman's right to choose in the case of rape, incest.
Why do you think these people, some of these Republicans, are so
Very far right Christians, and yeah, That's all I can
So
say.
okay, fair enough. So we agree on that. What is your take on abortion in general, though? Do you think that it should be illegal?
No.
You
No,
don't. So
no.
so that's
I agree in
Yeah.
cases of
Yeah.
the health and safety of a mother,
Sure.
rape and incest. Absolutely.
sure.
And there are states like Florida, I think they have a 15-week law. So it's like
Which
the
I'm
first
okay with.
term. Texas is 4 weeks. So
That's not long enough.
if
That's
you-
insane.
4 weeks is nuts because it's like if you miss your period, you
Right.
you better have
So
skip.
this is one of the top 5 issues that you agree with Democrats on.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Fair enough. Okay. And I'm sure I'll bring up some things that you'll disagree with, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Another big issue is healthcare, right? I think we could agree healthcare is a top 5 issue. So there's a lot of Republicans, including Donald Trump, that have been calling out Obamacare for years now. 9-10 years, Donald Trump has no replacement plan. He says he has concepts of a plan. And I'm thinking to myself, it's one thing if you don't like something, but what I tell people is if you don't like it, what are you going to do about it? He has no replacement plan.
I think they're working on something in place, but
So that might be true.
yeah.
But my question to you is, he's had 9 years. Why has he not come up with anything in 9 years? That's not a serious person.
Did we know he was going to get elected?
No, but he was in office though, Rochelle, for 4 years. He was president.
Yeah.
It's gonna be here in weeks. It's gonna be here in a couple months. I'm not trying to grill you, by the way. I'm just saying,
Right.
like, that's not a serious policy.
How
person.
anxious are you to see the Epstein files?
Well, why have they not been released?
I know. Trust me, we're all
Rochelle?
wondering that.
Rochelle, I have a theory on that. Okay.
Okay.
I have a theory. So first of all, Pam Bondi and the Trump administration in general were gloating. Oh, we're gonna release the Epstein files. We're gonna investigate it. Okay, great. And it's interesting because Donald Trump was on the flight log 7 times. And Jeffrey Epstein said that at one point in his life, Donald Trump was his best friend. Can it be possible that maybe Donald Trump is on that list?
No, because Donald Trump was actually one of the ones that called out Jeffrey Epstein when he found out that he was having relations with underage girls, and he banned him from all of his properties and everything. Trump was the one, but the media doesn't want to talk about that. The media wants to be like,
Well,
oh,
here's what I
Trump's
wanna
on his
see.
flight logs.
Well, here's
and
what I
all
wanna
this stuff.
see.
Everybody, every wealthy, prominent man, and men and women that were in New York or all over, everybody was friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
why didn't they
Oprah
release it?
Winfrey.
Why didn't they release the? I find that interesting.
I find it, all of us do. We're all waiting, and then there was a ton of influencers that were at the White House with these binders and they were taking these photo ops.
which made them look absurd and ridiculous because there was nothing in those binders that we
Yeah.
didn't already know.
Yeah, we're all waiting.
I'm saying is I do find it interesting, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when the guy called him his best friend, Epstein is caught on audio. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe when Donald Trump found out about, I tend to think Donald Trump knew who he was before then, but maybe we could agree to disagree.
No, Trump was the one that called out Jeffrey Epstein on that, banned him from all of his properties. Like, somebody needs to fact check me on this.
All right, no, but that might be true, Rochelle. But I look at Donald Trump when he went. Have you ever done the Howard Stern show, by the way?
Yes.
I love Howard, by the way. That's why I got into radio.
Oh,
Yeah, I love
okay.
Howard. So Donald Trump, as you know, made a bunch of appearances on Howard. By the way, like I said, I love Howard. He's the reason why I got into radio, and I want to ask you about that. But do you remember the interview that Donald Trump did with Howard Stern where he bragged about—
I didn't even know he was on Howard Stern.
So he does an interview with Howard, right? And this is when he was talking about when Trump owned these beauty pageants.
Mhm.
And he talked about going into locker rooms with women when they were undressing without his permission. And he talked about it sexually on the Donald Trump, on the Howard Stern show. And I said to myself, is that who you want to be a champion for women? Somebody who brags without their permission going into women's locker rooms? And I'm like, that has to bother you. That has to bother women in general.
I would say an argument to that, but I don't want to dive any more deep down this.
Fair enough. But I think it's a good—
I'll tell you off camera.
No, but fair enough. But I think it's a fair conversation because obviously you have a lot of fans, you have a huge platform, and it's not
Yeah.
because you're politically or into anything, but you do call yourself the MAGA.
I've
know.
never called myself the MAGA because there's another woman in the industry that has
Oh, is
that.
there really?
Yeah,
didn't know that.
she claims that she
right.
says that that's her name,
Fair
the MAGA MILF. So I've never ran with that.
Fair enough.
I joke and say to my military guys that I'm like their first lady, that I'm a conservative
Fair
porn
enough.
star. I support Trump, but I don't want to get out there. I've never said I'm the MAGA
Well,
queen.
Here's what I would
Because
like.
that's her claim to fame, and she definitely deserves it.
Understood. Why don't we take some phone calls?
Okay.
And I'll open up the phone lines. I want everybody to be respectful. And I'll open up the phone lines at 702-221-7283 because we haven't taken calls yet today because we've had 2 other guests. So she is Rochelle Ryan. She does not consider herself a MAGA porn star, but she is conservative and she does support Donald Trump. You could ask her any questions about the industry, and it doesn't mean she's going to answer every single one of them, but the number to call is 702-221-7283, and the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283, and she's also going to be giving something out. I think what we should do is we should give out your product to maybe your favorite caller.
Okay.
Why don't you explain to people in a PG-13 way what the gift that you are going to be giving out today?
So this,
and you can hold it up in front of the camera.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. So this product right here actually just launched on Valentine's Day. Perfect timing. It is my stroker molded after me, as PG-13 as it can get. And I will autograph it in everything.
It's just funny. I don't know. It's just I like that. It's funny. The stroker. I've never said that on the radio before. Rochelle Ryan is giving out a stroker. So
the Ultra Skin.
Yeah, and I'm gonna let you decide who wins it.
Okay.
Depending on the phone call.
Oh, okay.
Now I do have a lot of people that call into this show. I do have MAGA people that call into this show too. That might agree with you. I have some probably a bunch of people that might disagree with you, but that's okay.
You guys are hyping me up about this phone call. I've been seeing you both back and forth.
Well, we're going to get a lot of different callers. Unfortunately, I'll tell you this off the air. We did have a special guest that was supposed to be joining us, and he's not going to be able to do so. But I'll tell you about it off the air, and then next time you come on, I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
But all right, the number to call is 702-221-7283, and I promised we would get to the phone calls. Our phone lines are completely full. I just asked everybody to be respectful. Let's start off with Cheryl. Cheryl is on line 5, and you're on with Rochelle Ryan. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Early on, I just came on when you said that Donald Trump is a big First Amendment guy. If that's true, why is he not allowing certain reporters into conversations? Why is he trying to get rid of NPR and PBS? I mean, they have.
That's a fair question. So,
yeah,
Rochelle,
I mean, you can't have it both ways.
That's true. Unless you're in the porn industry. Sorry, that was a terrible joke.
That's true. That's true.
So, Rochelle, the caller is making the case about, rights at first, second, third, fourth, whatever amendment rights you're talking about. And she's talking about how certain members of the media are not allowed at certain events because they might not be pro-Trump. What are your thoughts on that?
At a lot of his press conferences, like CNN is there, like there's so many of them. So
There are a lot. Yeah. There are some situations, like she said, though, where the AP and certain people are getting banned. I personally don't.
So why are they getting rid of, and why are they trying to get rid of NPR and PBS?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question to ask.
I haven't heard of that, so I cannot comment. I'm sorry, Cheryl.
I think sometimes he doesn't like the certain line of questioning, and maybe sometimes he doesn't like being challenged, and then he just says, take a hike.
No, because he goes wide out open, answers all questions. It's not like Biden where they shuttled him away, or Dr. Jill Biden was hustling him off. He answers them.
He doesn't really answer them directly. I think sometimes he spins around questions, but so I think I would rather have someone who answers questions directly than someone who takes 100 questions and just doesn't answer anything directly. That's just my personal opinion, but I get he does hold a lot of press conferences. You're right about that. I don't disagree with you there. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is calling in next. Hi, Mark. You're on with Rochelle. Go right ahead.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Yeah. As a former Army medic, I have a few questions for you. How did you react or feel when Trump stated that military servicemen who served are suckers and losers? But I also have one more question after that. How do you feel about what he said about that?
Okay, Trump never said that. That was a claim from someone from.
It was a claim from his chief of staff,
General
who
Kelly,
was a Marine.
Yeah.
Okay, a 4-star general.
Well, she doesn't.
A Marine.
So she doesn't believe he said it. I believe he did.
There was an article posted on it was a very left-leaning news outlet.
Well, General Kelly, General Kelly said that on the record that he did say it, and Donald Trump has denied it. He said that he didn't say it.
Another one.
Okay, go ahead, Mark. Next question.
Next question is, how do you feel about the Trump University scandal and the housing discriminations against Trump, where he lost in court with both cases? That's pretty easy.
I can't comment on that because
Because you don't know about it.
yeah.
Well, if she doesn't know about
Yeah,
it, then I would rather.
absolutely.
I will say this though, in Rochelle's defense, if she doesn't know about it, then I would rather her not comment on it. I think there are too many people that might be left or right that might answer a question without knowing what they're talking about. So I think we should at least respect that. The only reason why, Rochelle, I do believe Donald Trump did say the term suckers and losers is because look at
No.
what well, let me ask you this then.
There's nobody that loves and supports the military more than him.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. When he said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured, what person who respects the military would say something like that? Now you
Can't
can
comment.
you can dislike somebody, right? You can say, I don't like John McCain's policies. I don't like him for this or that. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but fine, right? But when you say you don't respect somebody because they were captured, to me, you tell me if you disagree. That's not just crapping on John McCain. It's crapping on every single member of our military that at one point in their life has been captured. Just because you don't like somebody, I just don't think that's an appropriate thing to say. That's just my personal
I'm
opinion.
getting attacked by the left.
No,
you said
no,
this
no.
was about like me and stuff.
No. I'm
Lord.
not trying to attack, but I'm just giving you my opinions on that. I just didn't like that comment. I didn't like the comment.
Yeah.
But
Well, Trump won, so
guessing
I
that-
mean, everybody could keep crying.
well, that's true. That is true. He
Yeah.
did win. But I'm guessing those first two callers are not ones that are going to be getting the stroker. That's just my personal opinion. 702-221-7.
They may need one.
Yes. 702-221. That's funny. 221-7283. Who are we going to next year? Let's see. Let's go to Dottie. Dodie is next up on PTL. Hello, Dodie.
Hi,
Hey.
Brian.
Hey, what's up?
I'm just wanted to thank you for everything that you do.
Oh,
I
well,
really
thank you.
love your show,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
and I'm just calling to address this lady that you have on your show. I can't remember her name.
Rochelle
But
Ryan. Rochelle Ryan.
Rochelle
Yes.
Ryan. Yes. I just I find it very convenient for her to come onto your show, and every time you ask her a point about something Donald Trump has said or done, she conveniently has no memory or no knowledge of it. And so I'm really not sure why she's even on the show.
Well, I'll answer that. I don't think she has to. First of all, I always like different perspectives on this show, as you know. I had a guy on first segment who's he's running for mayor in Mississippi. He's running for mayor, and he admitted that.
Feels good in here.
Yes, there you go. He admitted that he's called Kamala Harris the N-word, and I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna, if someone wants to share that, I think it's horrible. You wouldn't do that. And then we had Roland Martin on, who's on the opposite end of the spectrum. So I like having people on with different perspectives. That's the best way I could.
And I have my reasoning why I voted for Trump, and whether I decide to share them or not, that's on me. And that's all I would like to say.
Understood. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Harold. Harold is next on PTL. Hey, Harold, what's going on?
I'm a real man. I have a deep voice. Turn up the bass in your radio.
I had to have them turn it down a little bit.
Harold, are you a fan of Rochelle's? Did he hang up the phone? Okay, that's all. That's all he had to say. We were going to give you a free stroker, Harold. That's
I
too
was
bad.
excited. I thought you guys had someone good
I
that
thought-
you were hyping up.
Well, we did actually. And,
are
and-
they
and-
not calling in?
He canceled, unfortunately. I'll tell you about it a little bit later. It would have been a great phone call.
Oh.
But I'll tell you about it later because you're going to have to come back on and he's going to have to reschedule.
Okay.
702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Who is it? Okay, we're going to Brian next. Hi, Brian. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'd like to ask your guest there what kind of a question she wants so that I can win the stroker.
Who is this? Somebody you guys know?
We have another caller on. So I don't know. What would you? Oh, Brian, why don't you use your imagination and ask something that is PG-13 and maybe you could win the stroker.
Rochelle, does size matter?
No, I like average men.
So Brian, it sounds to me like you might be in luck then. It sounds to me like you might be in luck.
I would very much be in luck being very average.
Would you say, I think this guy should win the stroker?
No, we got to find somebody. We
He's
got to
admitting that
get
he's
a couple
average.
more.
That's very difficult to do. He's admitting that he's average.
No, he's just average guy.
All right. Brian, anything
Okay,
else?
Yeah, hey, Rochelle, would you sleep with Donald
He's not even
Trump?
pronouncing my name right.
Rochelle Ryan.
Yes.
Brian,
Rochelle.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Would she sleep with Donald Trump?
That's a fair question.
No, I like young guys in their 20s.
Wait, you're saying Donald Trump isn't young? How dare you?
He's old.
How about Barack Obama? He's a very good looking man.
No.
No?
No.
What about Bill Clinton? Back in the day?
No.
Are there any presidents that you said, wow, really good looking guy back in the day? I think I would have had relations with them because good looking guy. I think that's a fair.
Oh,
respect.
JFK.
JFK, of course. Yes.
Yeah, of
that's
course.
That's a very fair.
Yeah.
I think that's
JFK was hunky.
What about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
Oh, his voice kills me.
Can you imagine?
No.
Can you imagine doing a scene with him? All right.
God, no.
Brian, thank you for the call. She doesn't want to give you the stroker. There's nothing I can do about it. I tried to coerce her into doing so. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's up, Paul?
I don't want the stroker, first of all. So let's just start there.
Okay, Paul.
Look, I want to ask a question, and this is coming from a sincere place. So, listen, Brian knows me. I'm an independent. I don't lean. I mean, a little bit left, but this is what I have a hard time understanding. This guy on his third marriage, right, gets married to his wife, says, "I love you so much. I want to spend my life with you." Before God, his wife, and his wife's family, he says, "I will be faithful to you for better or for worse until death do us part." While his wife is recovering from giving birth to their 2-week-old son,
that's true.
He goes out and screws a porn star. Now, why do you think that guy that can't even be faithful to his own wife is going to keep his promises to you?
That's a fair question.
There are so many men that are unfaithful to their wives. Whether
whoa.
would
No.
absolutely.
No, there's not. Not everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Whether it's they are having a transactional relationship with a porn star, or whether it's emotional with a secretary or whatever, there are many of them.
Okay, so that makes it okay.
No, I'm not saying it's okay.
Well, but
that
I'm saying
doesn't
is he
take
can't
away
even
who
keep
he
his marriage vows.
That doesn't take away who he is as a businessman by any means.
Mm-hmm.
Business is
Well,
business.
Yes, but he has 7 bankruptcies.
I don't
He's
ask
12.
my people that I have in my circle, excuse me, have you been unfaithful to your wife? Business is business.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but it has to do with the character of a person.
Yeah, but it's
Right?
there's so many men that do it though. Do you really get when you're interviewing your CPA or a mortgage broker or whoever, you're not asking them these questions. Maybe you are. Do you
think
really
that
care the
maybe
character of them, or do you care if they're going to make you money, save you money, get you a loan, whatever the case may be? I don't think so.
I have a different view on that because I think that, and you and I might
Is
agree on this.
anybody morally correct these days?
No,
Well,
but
what I'm
I
saying-
don't think so.
but
what I'm getting,
yeah, go ahead, Paul.
no, what I'm getting at is I think at some point that us as a society that we put capitalism and monetary value over decency and morality. Is that a fair statement? I think you and I might be able to agree on that.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
And I think that's what's happened. And I say this because how I grew up, my dad used to put my mom through a wall. So for me, I would never treat a woman that way. But I think what's happened is we've kind of normalized this toxic masculinity, mistreating women as just a norm. And I think to some extent, that's where we've kind of failed our young men as a society. I think we can agree on that.
Not necessarily all the way, but
Yeah. I don't think Paul's getting the stroker. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Billy. Phone lines are full here. Let's go to Billy. Billy's next. You're on with Rochelle Ryan. Go right ahead, Billy.
Yeah, this is Billy. You didn't ask for my last name.
I don't think we ask for last names.
I don't. Yeah, we
Well,
usually don't do
Billy-
last. Yeah, go ahead.
It's Billy Squire,
Okay, I don't know who you are, Billy, but go ahead.
as in stroke me.
Oh, okay. Now I get where you're coming from. Does that mean Billy wins the stroker? I don't know. What's on your mind, Billy? What's going on?
Your nicknames for Donald Trump, I think, should be they're too tame as far
Well,
as.
let's ask
Cheeto
Rochelle.
Jesus.
Let's ask Rochelle. So, Rochelle, I have a few nicknames for Donald Trump. Orange Orangutan is one of them. Cheeto Jesus is another one, and Orange Turd. I would imagine I'm not winning the stroker, but those are some of my nicknames for Donald Trump. Do you like any of those?
No.
No. What's your nickname for Donald Trump? Donnie? Like what? Give me a nickname. You're a supporter of his, but like what?
Probably, I guess, Donnie.
Donnie. Okay, that's fair.
Yes,
Fair enough.
Donnie.
All right. Well, Billy, go ahead and give me one that's PG-13. Go ahead.
How about the flaccid Fuhrer,
That's a good one.
or the or the commander in Queef.
I like that one.
Does he win the
Just a
stroke?
few.
No.
All right, fine. Thank you for the call, Billy. I
I
just
might give you the stroke, or I feel like you might need it too.
I need to release some tension. 702-221-7283. Gina is next up on PTL. Hey, what's going on, Gina?
I wonder if this is
Hello,
my
Brian?
friend Gina. Oh no.
Hi, Gina. Go right ahead.
No, it's Tina, but
Oh,
that's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tina. I apologize. Go right ahead.
Yeah, my question was for Rochelle.
Okay.
I wanted to know if she worries with this administration being like, you know, you have Mike Johnson and you have these ultra conservatives. If she worries about her industry getting shut down with Project 25, if she knows what that is.
Yes, it's Project 2025.
Right.
And I feel that anybody that does believe in that probably also believes in the Easter Bunny.
You don't think they've implemented anything from Project 2025?
It's literally just kind of like a wish list. And there was a lot of horrible people during Donald Trump's first term. And this term, he's trying to weed those people out. And of course, like we talked about earlier, there's extremists on both sides, the left and the right.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be like, yay, porn, but we have so many laws in place to protect us. What I personally think, if anything was going to happen, and I hope all these listeners hear this, is I think if there was anything, they would appoint maybe 50 to 100 prosecutors, and they would go, because they want the big fish to make the example of. So I think they would go around to all the top companies, studios in the industry, and maybe even OnlyFans, because OnlyFans is blown up, and been like, we need to see the 2257, the model releases, the IDs. And
Well, you would agree everyone is entitled to due process, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no.
So if you're undocumented and he's, deporting people, I don't want people sent to like high maximum security prisons in El Salvador unless they have due process to prove that they are a gang.
I know where you're going at, because there was that one Lone Ranger.
Well, there's they're investigating, and I doubt
What,
that.
didn't he come over here illegally?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a different topic. It's one thing if you're illegal, right?
Yeah.
Undocumented, whatever word you want to use. It's another thing if you're going to be put in the highest maximum security prisons and be treated like a terrorist. I just want people to, if you're going to deport them, that's one thing, but we have to make sure who they are. And if they're not a gang member, they shouldn't be put in that prison. That's my only, that's my gripe there. We have a UK caller. We have somebody calling in from the UK. Would you like to take that
Ooh.
caller? Maybe he can win the stroker.
Oh
Let's go to
That's
Paul.
a long way to ship it.
Yes. Paul is calling from the UK. What's up, Paul?
Hey, hi. Hi, Brian. Yeah. Rochelle, you're a lovely girl. I've got 4 daughters, and I think they've been brought up well. And I've taught them many things. And they would recognize in the person you voted for a vile human being. He's a terrible businessman. He's bankrupted 3 casinos. He was given $450 million by his dad, which gave him the persona of being a good businessman. I mean, I would look like a good businessman if somebody gave me $450 million. He's a great con man, but he's also a very, very bad human being. Very bad human being. Despicable. And the reason why I say this, Rochelle, I want you to have a good life. And the reason why I say this, so that you will one day recognize this in another person, a man like this, is because of his words and his actions, not because of my opinion. He tells you he's a terrible human being. When somebody tells you they're a terrible human being, believe them. It's not something a person who has a moral compass would admit to. So when he says, for example, that he grabs women, which he said, by a certain part of their body, that's not locker room talk. That's rapist talk. Rapist talk. And you should not vote for a rapist.
All right. Well, let's
And
let
you should
Rochelle.
not be
Let's let Rochelle respond to that. 'Cause she's getting a lot of people that are.
The thing is, you will never win a war going back and forth with someone. I have my opinion, you have yours, and that's amazing.
I don't think it's always about winning, and I don't think it's always about I got you. it's just hearing other people's perspective.
But you know,
trying-
and I totally get that, but it's like it's what is coming on their algorithm and what they're seeing and what they're believing in. Yeah, there are a lot of fake news outlets and crap that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm never gonna argue and win
I
with
think
them. It's
there's-
exhausting.
there's-
I did enough
yeah.
of that before the election, so Trump won.
Sure.
Everybody can calm down. We've got Donnie in office.
Can I ask you one more
All
political
right,
question?
you could just ask me one more.
Okay.
You told me this wasn't going to
Um,
be all politics.
Well, a lot of my callers, that's what they want to talk about. But in the next 10 minutes here, we're not going to be doing politics. But I agree with you. Donald Trump did win. Would you agree with me that Joe Biden won in 2020?
I don't think so. No,
You don't?
No.
Why? How come?
there's no way.
How come?
Because like overnight there was some insane flood of votes that came in Michigan and just all
Mail-in
the
voting, yeah. Mail-in
mail-in voting from people that are dead and all sorts of things. It's just a little too sketchy.
Okay.
A little too sketchy.
Well, we can probably talk about that for an hour, but
Yeah.
I would respectfully disagree with you. I think that
It's
there's-
just all of a sudden like this flood of them overnight.
well,
that's
because we
insane.
were in a global pandemic, and Donald Trump told people, his supporters, not to mail in vote. There were a lot of mail in votes that came in, and they didn't have
Yeah.
enough people in some states to. But I don't think that means that there were dead people that were voting. But if someone could provide me widespread vote, listen, I criticized Rosie O'Donnell the other day on Piers Morgan for saying that she doesn't think Trump won the election, and I criticized her because I said, don't be an election denier. Donald Trump won in 2016. He won in 2024,
Yeah.
and Joe Biden won in 2020. But anyway, okay, we don't have to continue down that rabbit hole. But I do believe, if Numchuck, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe we have Nicole Mitchell that's waiting. So here's what I want to do. I want to introduce this lovely lady.
Okay.
She is a former pastor, now turned OnlyFans model, Rochelle. And she is joining us right now. Her name is Nicole Mitchell. Nicole, hi, you're on with myself and Rochelle Ryan. How are you, Nicole?
I'm
Look-
so good.
Please.
Hello, Rochelle. You look gorgeous. Thank you for being here.
I want to see her.
well, you can see her on the stream. I mean, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Trust me, she's
spin the monitor around.
yeah, trust me, she's very, very beautiful.
Oh wow.
All right, so Nicole, I want to start by asking you this because you guys, Nicole comes from a very right-leaning family, right? Nicole, can you explain to her your path and where you're at now, just so to give her a little bit of background on you, if that's okay?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was raised very religious, very conservative, very anti anything with the adult industry. And my only aspiration allowed as a woman was to be a man's wife and to be the mother of his children. And that would be my epitome of my existence. I did it. I married a man. I had his kids. I was a stay-at-home mom and I was miserable. And I just felt lied to. And I went on this journey to discover like, who is Nicole apart from all the dogma and indoctrination? Like, what does Nicole want? And I went on this journey and found out that I was a very closeted slut. And OnlyFans was a thing. And I was like, wait, what? There's a platform I can like post my sexy photos I've been secretly taking all these years and maybe make a little bit of money. Are you kidding me?
Why is it, Nicole, why is it, and I'll ask Rochelle the same question, the word that you just used, some people use it in a very derogative way towards women, and when a man sleeps with a lot of women, why is it they never criticize the man the way so many in society criticize women? I have a serious, Rochelle, would you agree? It's a double standard, is it not?
100% it is.
Yeah. Nicole, do you agree with that?
Oh my God. Yes. It's like my definition of a slut is when it comes to a woman, it's a woman who knows what she wants and lets herself have it.
Right.
Sexually, but
And who-
across the board. It's like,
and who-
we know
Who
what
has
we
a
want.
problem with that? Who would have a
Exactly.
problem?
It's
I don't
because
understand.
We're a woman.
Yeah.
And in a patriarchy, only a man is allowed to know what he wants and allows himself to have it. If we do it, it's selfish. If it's they do it, it's a strength. It's great. If she does it, she's demanding. If he does it, it's his birthright. Like it is so inherently hypocritical.
So, Rochelle, explain to Nicole and to our audience why you decided to get into this industry. What was it about this industry? You said, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I got into the industry in 2006. And at the time, it was the only recession-proof industry that I could get in outside of going into like the medical field. And actually, when I took my interest exam, when I was going into college, I said I should go to nursing school. And I was like, there is absolutely no way am I going into nursing school. And I just made my way into the adult film industry, but I kind of went in with a plan.
Right.
Basically like how football players study football. Well, I studied the industry and here I am.
I've always been, okay, so Nicole, I tried to make this 10 take to Rochelle about the fact that I think there, and she told me she thinks there's, and I believe her, she's in the industry, that 70%, 7 out of 10 about people in the adult entertainment industry lean conservative. And that kind of surprised me a little bit because I felt like it's a liberal industry. Be who you are, be happy with your body. It doesn't matter who you are or what you like. What are your thoughts on that, Nicole?
I know I'd love to hear Rochelle's thoughts on this because that's something that has genuinely baffled me, that like the right is so anti-porn, but I'm finding in the adult industry and in my OnlyFans circles that there are more and more women from the right doing this. And I have mixed feelings because I'm like, I love that you're doing this, do what you want, but why are you part of a side that is actively trying to take away our rights and makes our industry like paint us with such a bad stroke? So I would love to hear from you, Rochelle, like what have you come to learn being in the industry for so long?
I've been in for 19 years and I've never felt that, yes, there's people on both sides are going to paint us in such a negative light. But yeah, that's, I don't see, the people that believe in, Project 2025, it's going to take away your rights and all this. Like I said, I think you might as well believe in the Easter Bunny.
Why is it though? And Nicole, you know a lot about this, that people are so ultra religious or anti-porn. Nicole, why is that? And then I want to ask Rochelle,
That's
why?
like getting into psychology.
I think the most repressed people are the most against it.
Well,
like
for
I
sure,
think they
of
are
course.
so afraid of their own desires that instead of dealing with what they feel, they will distract themselves by trying to control other people's behavior. I was just telling my OnlyFans subscribers, I had a man on Twitter DM me asking for a masturbation video, and on his bio, it's like faith, family, no porn. And yet he's DMing me for my porn. And
Wait, was it Katie Vance? I'm sorry, terrible joke. Go ahead.
So I'm in the middle of doing this, like I'm being very sweet. I'm like accommodating him, but I'm gonna wait till he buys my content and then ask him, why are you promoting anti-porn on your feed while you're DMing me for mine?
Because he's a hypocrite.
I want to understand your hypocrisy, genuinely.
Hypocrite. All right, I got to ask Rochelle this question out of curiosity.
I think a lot of people, I see so many people that do stuff like that just to stir the pot, though.
Yeah.
Literally.
I get
They
that.
just want to stir the pot.
Yeah. There's people
They want to argue. There's a lot of sad, miserable people that sit behind their computer screens that do stuff like that. They just want to argue. They want to get a reaction out of you. They want to see me respond back. Like, I just want to see if you'd respond. I'm like,
I get that all the time. Usually from people with 8 followers on social media.
I mean, I get it from people with a lot or 8 followers, all the things.
All the time. Rochelle, what's the most money a man or a woman ever offered you for one night?
Oh,
You don't have to tell us whether you did it or not. I'm just curious because I would imagine you get that offer a lot.
I mean, I get guys that somehow like find my email and they're like, "Oh, I work for this Dubai Prince. He wants to offer you like $1 million." I'm like, "Sure,
You've been offered $1 million. Do you think? Any
No,
of these,
it's just people circling back to what we were saying. People are just all talk. Everybody wants to act like I've got all this money. I think I've never put myself in those circles around people, like sketchy people like
So
that.
no really wealthy businessman at an event
I wish
has ever come up to you and said, I would imagine you've had some very famous people that have.
I've had athletes that hit me up, but they just want to hook up. They've never offered me money.
Are you don't share names.
No, not with athletes. I could ruin some guys, but yeah. I
Okay,
just
can you
don't.
just tell me what sport they play? You don't have to give me a name.
Football?
So you've had NFL players that.
Oh yeah,
are
NFL
married.
players, a lot of soccer players, and yeah.
Former or current?
I'm sure both. I just don't pay attention. It doesn't like, I don't know. When I was young, when I was in my 20s, when I first got in the industry, I was like, ooh, so-and-so's in my
I'm
DM.
gonna guess, and you don't answer, but I'm gonna say Brett Favre. I'm gonna say it's.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. That was my number one guess.
Oh my gosh, no.
That was my number one guess.
no. I get like some of the college guys now, and I love them because they're cute.
So Nicole, how long have you been in this industry for? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Gosh, 5.5 years.
Okay, so you've
And
been
just doing OnlyFans?
Yeah, just OnlyFans.
Oh,
is
okay.
collapsed.
So what advice would you give Nicole? You've been doing this a little bit longer.
Ooh.
I've just always been true to myself. That's it. I always said I'll never do anything on camera that I never felt comfortable with. Never wanted to do anything just for a check or a lot of money. That just never interests me at all because you're just not going to feel good. You have to sleep with yourself at the end of the night.
Right.
And Yeah. So.
Well, there you go, Nicole. It's interesting because this segment goes by so fast, Nicole. But
I think I've been here an hour already.
you almost, yeah. But Nicole, thank you so much for being here. I know you're going to be coming out here for my birthday, so I appreciate that.
We're gonna have
Maybe-
so much fun.
Maybe we'll invite Rochelle out too because she lives here. Okay,
Yes,
maybe we
come
can
on
do that.
out. I'd
Yes.
love to meet you in
With
person.
no talking politics. Yeah, just fun. All right,
Hot
Nicole.
ladies having fun.
Everybody wants to talk politics
Yes, I
with
know.
me.
Well, Nicole, it's good to see you as always. Thank you so much for being here.
So good to see you, Brian. Nice to meet you,
Thank
Rochelle.
you.
Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
And we have to quickly go to the YouTube super chat because I have not been doing a good job today of going to the YouTube super chat where people can make donations and share their responses and comments. So why don't we go straight to that, and why don't we do that? And let's see here. Where will I begin here? Because we have some of those up right now. And there we go. Darcy, thank you says love my frat brother Roland, truth teller, bold and furious. Yes, thank you, Darcy. Roland was fantastic, and I greatly appreciate your comments. And we have some other comments in there that we'll be going to. Kathy, everything that is going on today with the dismantling of DEI is based upon white fear. Well, I would agree with you. I don't like the term DEI. I don't know how Rochelle feels about that one. That would probably be another show. MJ says Florida is 6 weeks. The more you know. DJT is all over the Epstein files. Lisa says, why don't you treat her the same way you treat male MAGAs, Brian? Well, Lisa, here's what I would say to that. Because there are some people that are in the chat that are saying, I should be grilling you harder. First of all, you didn't come in here just to have a political debate. You came
And
in here-
actually, I asked that too. I said,
Yes.
hey, I don't want
Yes.
to talk politics the entire time because
Right.
I did a lot way before the
She did.
election.
Yes.
It's exhausting.
Correct. So she did ask
I'm
that.
not here to argue.
Right.
You know, I
And
am a
she's
proud
not- and
I am a proud Trump supporter.
But you're also not running for office. Okay. If
That
you're-
and you know what? I voted for him for 3 top reasons that if I choose to share them, that's on me.
yeah.
And yeah, I think there's a lot of just sad, miserable people out there, and I can't entertain that.
For example, the first guy that I had on is running for mayor in Mississippi, and he's a blatant bigot racist. So there's a difference between somebody that's running for office or somebody that's in office and somebody that's in another industry that happened to have voted for Donald Trump. So I'm always going to be respectful to people that are respectful to me. So that's just the way I do things here. But hey, David Pakman's going to be joining us on the show Tuesday. We got special guest Monday. Rochelle, I really do appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a good sport. And I want to have you on again, and I'll tell you about that special guest off the air.
Thank you.
But I appreciate promote something real quick where people can find you, and then we got to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there could probably use my stroker. So head on over to mainsqueeze.com. Get your ultra skin stroker.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. And thank you for coming in here. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to have you in again soon. And maybe we can do some other stuff next
For
time.
sure.
Thank you, Rochelle. Appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie?